Life is a continuous struggle for more. It all begins during early childhood when we simply cannot have enough of those fancy little toys. But it doesn't stop there. It's just the beginning. As we grow older, our desire for more grows exponentially. Our dreams and wishes become much bigger. The pursuit of even more becomes an integral part of our lives. As such, it greatly influences the decisions we make in life. Instead of making sound choices, we opt for the financially most promising alternative. Many people's lives are therefore not based on decisions that make them happy, but on decisions that help them to acquire more. They hope having more will eventually make them happy. But what if there's an alternative to the rat race for more? What if less is actually more? Imagine you cannot move around over here. Is it possible for you to work in this clutter? Do you feel stressed or burdened by the sight? Now imagine this neatly organized house. It's not a big house, but it has more space to move around. Do you feel relaxed or peaceful with the sight? You would prefer to live in this house, right? There are many unnecessary things around us. Our wardrobe, our appliances, and other stuffs. We just use 20% of our stuffs 80% of times. Can we minimize these by scrapping off the unnecessary? Have an interchangeable wardrobe, multi-purpose appliances, and just the necessary stuffs. Can the lengthy restaurant menu be replaced by a single page? Can less be enough to convey things, ideas, occasions? Can we own less? Isn't that so simple? And you are left with just few decisions to make, less wasted time and energy, less stress, less expense. Isn't it more of life, more space? Isn't that we really want? Architecture, since ages, has been an expression of art, culture, values, power, belief system, political system, and so on. Decoration and ornamentation were one such tool in architecture used to embellish the parts of the building and furniture. It has faced changes in its definition over the period of time. It was revealed sometimes in the form of mere expression and sometimes as a show of power. Ornamentation in the history was inspired from nature and geometry and slowly adapted to every use. It became the building's identity while lifting its value and prestige. The emergence of industrialization and factories created reaction against the machine production. Depicting pre-industrial medieval society as a golden age, the protagonist developed a critical view of industrial society. Ornamentation had created controversies among critics. Minimalists argued that ornamentation is superfluous and should be eliminated. The rejection of ornamentation began in the late 19th century by modernists who dismissed as extraneous. Ornamentation became an independent element of composition. Industrial Revolution pushed people to look for a new style, a modern style. Structural ornament as a new style was followed by architect Louis Sullivan, Le Corbusier, Mies van der Rohe, F.L. Wright, and many others. The Industrial Revolution led to redefine the function of buildings as a simple requirement of shelter. This approach led to a return to the principles of primitive sense of architecture based on social priority and purposes. During the World War I, huge destruction demanded huge construction and design. It was with the industrialized materials which made possible the fast construction, simple designs which served the purpose. With the idea of creating total work of art, including architecture, Bauhaus, the German art school, was founded. The school became a platform for the mass production of art. Bauhaus style was marked as the absence of ornamentation and by harmony between the function of a building and its design. Architect Mies van der Rohe, the third director of the Bauhaus, said his students the path for creative work is through materials and the function. Architect Mies, through his architectural journey from neoclassicism to minimalism, has designed simple rectangular forms, open, flexible, and multifunctional spaces. He influenced the entire generation of architects. He described his aesthetic tactic of arranging the numerous necessary components of a building to create an impression of extreme simplicity by enlisting every element and detail to serve multiple visual and functional purposes. He said, "Less is more." Elements like wall, column, and border turn into elements of ornament. As per time change, the purposes for which the building is used is constantly changing, and it was not affordable to tear down the building each time. This is why he constructed a practical and economical space into which he fit the functions with the use of minimalist approach. Iconic architects created their own means of ornament depending on the materials, texture, system of structure, and the display of functionality. Modern architecture gained much critics due to its rigid doctrines, uniformity, lack of ornament, and the habit of ignoring the history and culture of the city where it appeared. Robert Venturi argued that ornamental and decorative elements accommodate existing needs for variety and communication. Architects turned away from the modern functionalism which they viewed as boring, unwelcoming, and unpleasant. They turned towards the past, quoting past aspects of various buildings and melting them together to create a new means of designing buildings. The post-modern movement in Japan was seen as minimalism. Architect Tadao Ando showed through his designs the importance he gave to walls. Nothing more than 6 walls and a roof, the Church of Light. His departure from column to structural wall as generator of form is a testimony to the phrase "less is more." Ornament became the quality rather than quantity. The design world had begun to cautiously dip its toe in minimalist pool. The core ideal of minimalism, based on the Japanese art of reductivism, is less is more. That by stripping a space to its essential function, its true beauty is revealed. It is not about just subtracting for the sake of subtracting, but it is subtracting for the sake of focus. Less elements giving more expression, simplified in form and simplified in color. Being minimalist and using less attempts to draw us back to a different way of living and feeling, one that is calmer, more serene, and more worthy. India is a pool of traditional architecture, and its framework provides an ideal base for minimalist design and sustainable movement. The designers have been able to fuse the two styles. One of India's most iconic architects, architect Balkrishna Doshi, has always created an architecture that is serious, never flashy or a follower of trends. He focused on the environmental design, low-cost architecture, which makes judicious and innovative use of material, and a focus on building to suit the climate. In his projects, he employed a minimalist approach using limited sources and reusing waste material. Our earth has definite resources: timber, sand, clay, oil, copper, gold, natural gas, iron ore, potassium, and so on. To manage these natural resources is something we have to pay attention to. Efficient design can help reduce the cement industry's global impact, which contributes about 5% of the global's total carbon emission. The less we use Earth's resources, the more we live on Earth. Less use of land, less fuels, less water, less garbage, less pollution, less destruction. Can less save the world? All we need is less.